The cosmos reminds us that even in darkness, there is always light. We just have to look closely to see it. To understand our place in the cosmos, we must first look beyond the constraints of linear time and embrace the echoes of the past. The data suggests an unprecedented event. This isn't just a storm, it's a deluge that will reshape our world. When we look at these geological formations, we are seeing the passage of deep time, layer by layer, stretching back into the Earth's history. This wasn't merely a natural disaster. The ancient cataclysm was an extinction-level event, one that fundamentally altered the course of history. But then, something incredible happened. The emergence of the dinosaurs completely reshaped the world as we knew it. The stars remind us that even in darkness, there is profound beauty and connection. We are all part of this unfolding story. When we look up at the stars, we often ask ourselves, what else is out there? But perhaps the real question is, what is within us? As we look at these merging landscapes, we see the echoes of the past shaping our future. If we look closely at the night sky, we see reflections of ourselves and the ancient paths we've traveled. I hope this reflection brought you clarity. If it did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. The cosmos holds many secrets, but together we can explore the wisdom they offer. The ripples you see emanating from the globe represent the interconnectedness of our world, touching every life. Join us as we journey back in time, long before the continents we know today took shape. Look closely at this visualization of Pangaea. The forces that shaped our world are still moving beneath our feet, even today. Even in the vast emptiness, life finds a way to thrive. The green oasis reminds us that hope is always present. The silent majesty of these ancient rocks holds the key to understanding our past. Life's resilience is a powerful force. Even after epochs, the echo of these ancient creatures reminds us, welcome. True serenity can be found even in the most arid places. Everything is connected, much like these delicate patterns. Our journey is about finding our place within the grand design. We look to the stars for guidance, yet sometimes the silence holds a warning we are only beginning to understand. As the warmth of the sun-baked landscape fades, we embrace the stillness of winter. The fossil record shows a dramatic shift after the celestial event. These ancient rulers gave way. Before the age of giants, the earliest dinosaurs were small, unassuming creatures, hidden among the stars and the larger reptiles. To truly understand our place, we must look beyond the familiar stars and embrace the endless horizon of the unknown. Look closely at the cracked earth and the vanishing water. It is a profound visualization of life's inherent fragility. The balance we see above is mirrored below. Wait, the readings are indicating unusually low. The Earth was not always as we know it. Pangaea, the supercontinent, existed in a delicate balance, much like our world today. The stars have guided us for centuries, but their message is often complex. We must look closer. Everything is connected, like this intricate web we weave together. But remember, even the strongest bond. Welcome. Tonight we journey back in time to witness the dawn of our world, a time of immense change and vast landscapes. The celestial alignment reveals a grave warning. A shadow is approaching the stars, and we cannot ignore the signs.
Welcome back to Ancient Earth. Today, we look at Pangaea, the supercontinent that dominated the Permian period.
Hello, I'm Ling. In a world full of noise, finding calm wisdom is essential. Let's explore that together. After months of drought, the first drops of rain are a blessing. Watch how the earth absorbs it. The first rain of the season always feels significant. It's a moment of renewal and perhaps reflection. The Earth's ancient record is preserved in these layers, revealing the dramatic shifts our climate has undergone throughout history. Look closely. We see here how the dry, cracked Earth welcomes the moisture, transforming into the very foundation of new growth. These ancient minerals hold secrets older than the stars themselves. They remind us that these ancient stones are like the pages of a universal book, recording the deep time of our existence. The balance is delicate. Even among the stars, growth requires careful attention, especially when life struggles to take root. These roots show the struggle beneath the surface. But even in decay, we look to the stars for guidance. Yet the answers we seek may lie hidden in the resilience of the Earth itself. While the turbulence of the storm may obscure our view, remember that the stars are always present above the clouds. The storm rages behind us, a glimpse into a primordial world.
This visualization demonstrates the dramatic impact of sudden climate shifts on vulnerable landscapes across the globe.
It is a constant push and pull. For creation to truly begin, there must first be a struggle. The cosmos whispers to those who listen, guiding us through the shifting seasons of our lives. We carry the weight of the past, yet the stars remind us that hope is always within reach. We are witnessing a profound transformation. The swelling rivers create new waterways.
The swelling river reminds us that from disruption comes abundance. See how quickly the new forest emerges where the waters meet the land.
This overwhelming abundance is a source of both wonder and profound risk. This deluge signifies the end of the drought, a cleansing before the next cycle of growth. Observe the dramatic shift as the heavens open, releasing the energy that shapes our world.
The changing currents are dramatic, yet we find our resilience not in fighting the flow, but in understanding its path. Welcome. Tonight, we explore the profound impact of the rising tides on our world, even as the What begins as a gentle shift in the sands can rapidly escalate into a destructive torrent, reshaping the landscape entirely. The desert holds secrets we are only beginning to understand. But even the brightest sands eventually yield to the coming storm. The dry earth gives way, but what emerges is not life, but a festering swamp.
The celestial patterns suggest a shift, a heaviness. The greatest irony of the rising tides is that they threaten to take everything, even our fresh water supply. The undoing begins not with a sudden shock, but a gradual saturation. These roots remind us
the speed of this deforestation is unprecedented. We are looking at a critical loss of biodiversity.
Decay is merely a turning point from the breakdown of the old.
As the waters continue to rise, the devastation to these critical habitats becomes irreversible.
The struggle is real, a constant fight for survival against the odds. The struggle is profound, yet ultimately futile. When the natural world reclaims its space, this cataclysmic event, though sudden, was merely the beginning of the great unraveling.
It was a desperate struggle for survival. Creatures faced an impossible choice.
With every path erased, a history is submerged. The seeds of the past are wilting before our eyes. The Earth is reshaping itself, a powerful, sometimes painful process of renewal that we must observe closely.
This remarkable hydrological shift is creating vast, permanent lakes, securing the future of the region.
When we consider the full scope of the timeline, we begin to understand the immense journey that brought us to this moment.
The truth, however unsettling, remains the only solid ground we have. Look closely, the foundations are shifting.
The disintegration you see before you is not an ending, but merely a transformation. Even as the old structures decay, nature finds a way forward. Even the strongest floods cannot wash away the seeds of resilience. From the deepest waters, new welcome. As the stars align.
The power of the Earth is on full display tonight, a fiery reminder of the forces that shape our world. The confluence of fire and flood represents the critical challenge of our era, highlighting the urgent need.
We've entered the feedback loop. The rise in global temperature is directly increasing the humidity. As one cycle ends, another begins. This dying world gives way to a vibrant new ecosystem. Change is inevitable. Even the mightiest among us must eventually yield to the currents of time. Welcome. Tonight we explore how new landscapes forge new opportunities. Life finds a way to thrive. The subtle branching patterns you see here illustrate the incredible resilience of nature. Guiding. From humble beginnings, they grew to dominate the world. A testament to the power of adaptation. For over 160 million years, these magnificent creatures. This transition represents not an end, but the dawn of remarkable new opportunities for growth. The path ahead is uncertain. Are we truly prepared for what is coming? The geological layers beneath us hold the key to understanding our climate's past, and perhaps its future. Welcome.
As we observe the dynamic nature of our planet, we begin to understand the forces that unite us across these shifting lands.
These ancient whispers reveal the story of our origin.
Hello and welcome. The universe has so much to teach us about ourselves, if only we take the time to look up. The universe is vast, yet within us lies the wisdom to understand its deepest secrets.
Welcome. The universe holds many secrets.
Greetings. In this space, we explore the gentle wisdom of the cosmos. I invite you to open your mind and find serenity. Welcome. The cosmos holds many secrets, and tonight we will explore a few of them together.
The raw power of these eruptions reshapes the very landscape, a dramatic display of the Earth's internal forces. As the elements clash, the atmosphere thickens. We are witnessing the profound impact of carbon emissions on a global scale.
We are witnessing a terrifying feedback loop. The data shows that rising temperatures are...
The universe constantly sheds the old to make way for the new. From this apparent ending,
Witness the end of the age of giants. The rising waters claim them all.
Resilience is woven into the fabric of existence. As the stars shift above, these agile creatures,
the path forward is rarely clear. But by embracing these new evolutionary paths,
as the climate shifted, the dinosaurs adapted rapidly. From humble beginnings, they rose to dominate the new.
From the Triassic to the Cretaceous, these magnificent creatures thrived, leaving behind a legacy etched in stone and time. As we look to the future, we see new opportunities emerging, much like these vibrant ecosystems thriving in their new homes.
This brings us to the most critical question. What happens now? And what does that mean for our future?
The data hidden within these ancient layers provides the knowledge we need to understand our changing world. Understanding our planet's past helps us navigate its future. Join us as we explore the dynamic forces shaping our world. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Finding balance begins with understanding the gentle rhythms of the universe. Greetings. In this space, we explore the threads that connect us all, across time and memory. Hello and welcome. When we look to the stars, we remember the importance of peace and understanding in our lives.
Finding serenity begins with understanding the gentle wisdom within yourself. Good night.
The lava flows you are witnessing are a stark reminder of the raw power beneath the Earth's crust. The merging of these forces, fire and flood, releases unprecedented levels of greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. We are witnessing a terrifying feedback loop. The rising temperatures and increasing humidity. While the old world fades into destruction, we must look to the new growth, finding balance in this transition.
one of these giant predators, a Sarcosuchus, partially buried in mud. Resilience is rewarded, while inflexibility is punished by extinction.
It and its kind are the inheritors of this reborn Earth.
The extinction of the old rulers has cleared the stage for the new. The distinct layer of charcoal and fluorescent that will for our Arctic era. Even the colossal marine reptiles, dominant forces in the oceans of that age, found themselves overwhelmed by this creeping, breathless tide. But this disaster didn't remain confined to the shallow coastal shelves.
As oxygen vanished from the deeper layers of the ocean, the mechanisms that might have restored balance began to fail.
Currents weakened. The natural churning between warm and cool waters faltered under the weight of a disturbed climate.
Without that mixing, the deep remained heavy and unmoving, dense with decay and silence.
Each burst of rainfall washed more nutrients into the sea.
And these nutrients fueled blooms, explosions of microbial life that consumed the oxygen faster than it could be replaced.
The die-offs that followed only deepened the suffocation, releasing even more organic matter, which in turn fed the next bloom.
It became a loop of collapse. And in some corners of the sea, the water didn't just become deadly, it became toxic. Where oxygen disappears, other gases rise to fill the void. One of them is hydrogen sulfide, a gas so poisonous it can extinguish nearly every form of life.
This noxious substance seeped up from the bottom, drifting through the ocean layers like a phantom.
And in places where it accumulated in sufficient quantities, it could even erupt at the surface, entering the atmosphere itself. That added another threat to a planet already spiraling into turmoil.
Picture standing on what was once a lively coastline.
The breeze carries a thick, sulfurous stench like spoiled eggs, and wave after wave brings nothing but lifeless fish to the sand.
This was the world beneath a storm-racked sky.
Coral reefs, once thriving in warm, sunlit shallows, were among the first to vanish.
They couldn't withstand the heavy sediment smothering them, nor the oxygen-starved waters that left them gasping. These once glorious structures, vibrant with color and life, crumbled away, reducing entire underwater cities to desolate ruins.
The life that had depended on them, fish, invertebrates, hunters, and the hunted, was scattered.
Food chains came undone. With prey gone, predators starved. Scavengers found nothing but bare rock.
Tiny creatures that had once sought safety within the coral spires were left adrift in open waters, where they didn't last long.
The collapse was continuous, like a tide that never retreated. The rains fed rivers. The rivers carried their burden to the seas. The seas absorbed it all.
And the balance that had once sustained life began to give way.
The oceans had long acted as Earth's great stabilizer, moderating temperature, harboring the vast web of life.
But now they became something else entirely. Unstable, unpredictable, unkind.
Sea levels were rising. But more than that, the very temperament of the water was changing. It wasn't just depth that threatened life. It was toxicity. It was heat. It was suffocation.
The boundary between ocean and land grew hazy, and neither offered safety. Creatures found themselves with nowhere left to turn.
The rains that fell were no longer a blessing. They were the beginning of something far more ominous. And yet, the story wasn't written solely in cloud and tide. Beneath our feet, the earth itself grew restless.
Deep underground, molten rock surged toward the surface.
Cracks split open, and from then, great fountains of lava burst into the skies.
The eruptions were relentless. Ash billowed into the atmosphere. Mile after mile of soot and smoke blackening the horizon.
And this wasn't a passing veil. It lingered, turning blue skies into a dim and endless dusk.
The air itself turned heavy, laced with fumes that choked the breath.
Each eruption released more than just fire gases, invisible to the eye, escaped into the atmosphere.
Carbon dioxide, methane, and sulfur compounds.
These gases cloaked the Earth in a thermal trap, wrapping the planet in a blanket of heat that refused to lift.
And the temperature began to rise, not slowly, but in jolting, unpredictable leaps.
Life struggled to adjust.
Seasons no longer wallowed. Gentle rhythms, they fractured into chaos. Cycles broken by extremes.
And then came the rain.
Not the nurturing rains of spring, but droplets that had changed on their journey through the skies. As they passed through volcanic gas, they absorbed carbon and sulfur, falling as weak acids that scoured the land.
When these acidic rains soaked into the soil, they stripped it of its richness.
Plants that had thrived began to wither. Forests wilted, their roots scorched by soil that could no longer sustain them. Rivers, once fresh and life-giving, became harsh, corrosive, turning their waters against the very creatures they'd once nourished.
Pools of water that had supported delicate species transformed into traps.
The landscapes of Earth, both above and below the waves, were reshaped by this extraordinary convergence of
Picture, if you will, a vast swamp humming with life.
Frogs call out from beneath the dripping canopy, their voices echoing in the thick, humid air as gelatinous strands of eggs cling to every reed and stem.
It's a place teeming with energy.
But now imagine returning to that same swamp after years of unrelenting rain and volcanic upheaval.
And the once vibrant chorus of amphibians has fallen silent.
The tiniest of creatures, those most finely tuned to changes in their environment, were the first to disappear.
And as they went, they took the balance with them.
Above it all, the sky was changing. The atmosphere saturated with carbon from
The very air grew dense, difficult to draw into lungs, a burden for both plants and animals.
Some species attempted to adapt, physiology shifting slowly to cope with the altered air. But for many, it was too much.
Even plants, which rely on carbon dioxide to live, reached a tipping point. What once nourished them now suffocated.
Broad sun-catching leaves shriveled. Forests thinned and retreated, replaced by open ground. As vegetation patterns shifted, the very contours of survival changed. With them, new borders drawn between life and extinction. The oceans, too, felt the pressure from above. Rains carried acidic gases from the sky into the sea, altering the chemistry of the waters.
Ocean acidification began to erode the foundations of marine life.
The calcium carbonate shells of plankton, mollusks, and corals.
With the collapse of the base of the food web, marine ecosystems began to fall apart from the bottom up.
The larger creatures starved. The richness of the oceans dimmed.
It was as though the earth itself had turned upon the life it once cradled. On land, the story was just as devastating.
Casting a gray paw over the landscape. And yet, paradoxically, greenhouse gases trapped heat over time.
It became a world defined by contradiction.
Cool and dim beneath the clouds, but warming inexorably with each passing year.
Species that once flourished began to falter. Some reptiles, which had thrived in earlier eras, grew lethargic in the mounting heat.
Their ranges shrinking as forest gave way to bare ground.
Amphibians, already besieged by floods and fire, now encountered poisoned pools where their delicate eggs could no longer survive. Even insects, those hardy survivors of mass extinction, began to suffer from broken food chains and vanishing habitats. Above all of this, the skies raged. Lightning split the darkened heavens. Acidic rain pounded the earth, dragging sulfur and toxins into every river, every inlet.
Each new storm carried the signature of another eruption.
And on the wind, a faint, constant taste of sulfur lingered, a reminder of the planet's upheaval.
Earth had entered a destructive feedback loop. Eruptions led to storms, storms to floods,
and floods to pollution that seeped into every corner of the biosphere. And through it all, the eruptions continued. The planet seemed intent on transforming itself, dismantling the old systems and forcing life to either adapt or vanish.
The equilibrium that had supported life, the balance between air, water, and soil, was fractured.
Now, evolution would have to respond to an entirely new set of rules.
The rains didn't stop. Year by year, century after century, they fell, reshaping valleys into
Creatures that had once thrived in the gentle climates of the Triassic were suddenly misaligned with the world they inhabited.
Their bodies, their habits, their entire biology had evolved for a planet that was now gone.
Amphibians that needed calm, consistent wetlands could not survive the chaos of endless floods. Reptiles that had ruled dry plains found their nests submerged and their young swept away.
The steady rhythm of life, its reliable pulse, was lost.
Old branches of the evolutionary tree began to wither. And when we turn to the fossil record, we find the evidence there, plain and stark.
Layer by layer, the stones tell a tale of disappearance. In one stratum, entire...
Take the rhynchosaurs, stocky herbivores with powerful beaks. They had once roamed the Triassic in great numbers.
But as the rains reshaped the plant world, they faltered. Their jaws, once perfect for shearing the old...
They could not adjust to the changing flora. Their extinction came quickly. Not a slow decline, but a sharp and sudden end. Of all the creatures that called the Triassic home, amphibians had once seemed among the most enduring, delicate, but determined.
Quietly thriving along the edges of rivers and shallow ponds, laying their soft eggs in small hollows and feeding among the reeds.
They had survived much already, but in this new era of relentless rain, their watery sanctuaries betrayed them.
The very habitats that once offered refuge turned hostile. Pools grew stagnant, overrun with the oxygen that had sustained them drained away. Floods swept through with unrelenting force, disturbing nesting grounds and destroying fragile eggs. Even the chemistry of the water changed, turning familiar homes into toxic traps.
Populations collapsed, and where there had once been the echo of croakas and splashes in the twilight, there was now only stillness.
Among the predecessors of that time were the crocodile-like aerosaurs, formidable creatures built for dominance. Their powerful bodies honed by evolution, their jaws armed with rows of teeth, but strength alone could not preserve them.
As ecosystems frayed, prey became scarce, nesting sites were inundated or eroded. And the devastation wasn't contained to the land. The oceans, too, began to suffer.
Runoff from the land brought an overwhelming surge of nutrients into coastal waters, fueling blooms of algae that turned toxic and suffocated marine life.
With that collapse came the disappearance of entire groups, marine reptiles, shellfish, and hosts of unseen.
The breakdown in one realm reverberated through another. As the sea faltered, so too did life, intricately bound together in webs of dependency, began to unravel strand by strand.
It became an age not of survival, but of elimination. Extinction was no...
Whole communities of vertebrates withered, and fossil evidence reveals a sharp decline in diversity. The tree of life was being pruned with ruthless efficiency.
Only those creatures with exceptional adaptability, those that could reproduce. Small, opportunistic species weathered the storm better than the giants, who were built for stability, not upheaval.
And here, the emotional weight of this transformation becomes difficult to ignore. Imagine the herds that once roamed freely now vanished.
The amphibians that once sang beside the water now silent. The dominant... The Earth was not simply losing its former inhabitants. It was remaking itself. And those who remained carried forward the flickering torch of life. Amidst this desolation, there emerged the first fragile signs of renewal.
With the dominant aerosaurs faltering, the amphibians diminished, and the old orders upended, the world's ecological...
In this reshuffled landscape, the dinosaurs, small, often overlooked creatures of the time, began to find space to grow.
Their story, still in its infancy, took root on the bones of those that didn't endure.
The storms that scoured the planet clean didn't just destroy, they also created. In every downpour was the potential for regeneration. Each drop that fell didn't simply erode, it nourished.
Water seeped into cracks, woke dormant seeds, carried minerals into the soil.
Where once the earth had been hardened by aridity, shaped by long droughts and sun-baked deserts.
The first to answer this call were the ferns. Their fronds unfurled in every corner where moisture lingered.
Light as air, their spores drifted across the breeze, settling wherever the ground would accept them. And in this world, water was no longer scarce. They flourished.
In their wake came the conifers, ancestors of today's pines and cedars. They grew not just outward, but upward.
As the ground softened, their roots gripped tightly, anchoring them to the earth. They became the first
bare by the elements, it endured. What did not kill it only made it stronger.
The animals that endured had been shaped by the ordeal. Large reptiles that once ruled swampy lands had vanished.
Overwhelmed by the unending moisture and disrupted ecosystems. Amphibians, once thriving in watery domains, had dwindled in their absence. Reptiles better suited to instability took their place, adaptable, efficient, and ready. The deluge had been unforgiving, but in clearing away what couldn't survive,
it made space for what could. And this was the turning point, the moment when dinosaurs, still small, still far from the titans of the Jurassic, began to spread.
They were swift, conserving energy, able to adapt to a world that was still settling. While others faltered, these nimble survivors moved into the empty spaces left behind.
Each patch of open land, each clearer sky, became an opportunity to explore and expand. It was as though the Earth itself had let out a long-held breath. Rivers receded, retreating into calmer channels. Though they left behind rich floodplains where life would flourish. Lakes, swollen by years of rain, began to stabilize. And in their gentle waters, new species of aquatic life began to appear. Filling the quiet that followed extinction. Forests rose again, not identical to the ones lost, but transformed. Conifers, ferns, and early seed plants returned in new combinations. And with them came a different world, a world renewed, not as it was, but ready to be shaped again.
But the imprint of that catastrophe became a part of everything that lived.
Creatures that had mastered the art of burrowing deeper into the soil to escape rising waters kept that instinct alive.
Passing it forward.
Those that had survived by outrunning surging floods retained their speed etched into their very bones. Plants that had weathered, soaked, and shifting ground evolved to cope with unpredictable, unsteady environments.
Evolution didn't forget it. Recorded every storm scar as a permanent entry in life's ledger. Written not in ink, but in behavior, biology, and design. What followed wasn't some peaceful resurgence.
was a determined march forward, shaped by what had been lost and what endured. Each extinction made room, and in the quiet that followed, every survivor brought with them the wisdom of what had been endured. From that uneasy balance, the earliest dinosaurs began to rise. Not yet the masters of Earth, not yet thundering across every continent. But they had survived, and that in itself was enough. They'd endured what so many others could not. That survival gave them a foothold.
These glowing markers represent oxygen isotopes. In a heavy prehistoric downpour, the balance...
And through that foothold, generation after generation, they began to spread.
The planet they now inhabited was not the one that came before.
It was quieter, but the silence carried weight, a sense of all that had vanished. Countless families of species were no more, gone without return. Yet in that vacuum, new life waited, ready to write the next chapter.
And so the world turned again, this time toward the age of the dinosaurs.
An age seeded not by triumph, but by resilience, whispered through deep time.
When we picture storms, we tend to imagine nights filled with thunder.
The sound of rain drumming on windows, rivers overflowing their banks. And the impression that nature has slipped its boundaries.
But even the worst storms, we know those that make history books, are momentary.
Brief flashes,
against the scale of deep time.
The storm that swept through during the Carneum Pluvial event was of a different order entirely.
It wasn't a season. It wasn't even an era in the way we usually understand it.
It was a deluge that endured for millions of years.
Long enough to shape the future of every living thing. This was not simply weather. It was a test, a prolonged reckoning with water.
One that determined who would vanish into the depths of the past and who would rise to shape what came next.
The rain didn't just fall, it transformed. Forests drowned. River systems were torn apart and reshaped. It is here, buried deep, ancient secret.
Wetlands stretched into infinity. And with this reshaping came change.
For smaller animals, these new landscapes became opportunities.
Fresh water teeming with life. New feeding grounds in unfamiliar places.
But for the giants, those that had evolved to rely on solid, dependable land, it was the end of the road. They lost their footing, and one by one, many were swept aside. In their absence, the great rebalancing began. Extinction opened the gates, and through those gates came a flood of new forms. New behaviors, new possibilities.
What made this event truly different? What set it apart from the many upheavals that punctuate Earth's history was its timing. It came at a moment of delicate transition, when life was only just regaining its footing from earlier catastrophes.
The Triassic period was already a time of recovery.
Ecosystems had been pieced back together, carefully balanced. And then the rains began and didn't end. That fragile order collapsed.
What followed wasn't just loss, but transformation.
The dinosaurs did not rise through luck.
They rose because this unparalleled storm cleared the board. Before the Carnian rains, dinosaurs were just one among many.
They shared the land with towering amphibians, primitive reptiles,
and a whole host of curious and bizarre forms that had dominated for ages.
These creatures weren't weak. They had faced previous challenges and thrived.
But this was different.
When the skies refused to close, their world changed beneath their feet. Their habitats drowned. Their advantage disappeared. And slowly their numbers began to shrink.
The dinosaurs, lighter in frame, more efficient in the way they breathed, and unusually adaptable, began to move in.
Where others saw desolation, they found opportunity.
It began as a scramble to survive. But over time, it became a quiet conquest.
Had the rain never come, the story might have gone another way.
Those ancient rivals could have kept their hold on the Earth. The dinosaurs might have remained obscure, just another forgotten branch in the great tree of life. And without their long reign, without their shadow shielding, small, warm-blooded mammals, our story might never have begun.
Because it was only after the dinosaurs fell that mammals emerged from the margins. And from mammals in time came us.
So in a very real sense, we owe our presence not just to chance meteors or molecular miracles.
For the scientists who study the past written in stone, this moment is one of nature's great turning points.
They look at layers of sediment laid down over vast stretches of time and read a narrative of upheaval.
They see in the rocks a record of change, of climate shifting so gradually and yet so decisively that the planet itself bent in response.
Within the minerals, they find markers, signatures of transformation. Each telling of life, interrupted, erased, reborn.
These were no ordinary rains. And these were no ordinary scars.
They are the signatures of a world reshaped by water.
The Carnian pluvial event wasn't merely an extended spell of bad weather. It was a pivotal moment in Earth's history when nature itself took evolution by the hand and guided it down a different path.
The reign of the dinosaurs wasn't written in the stars. Without that extraordinary period of rainfall, without the destruction, It brought the delicate. This wasn't just an age of rain. It was a moment that altered the rhythm of time.
Ending the story of life spiraling in an entirely new direction, one that ultimately led to the present. When we look back at the Carna pluvial event, it may feel like something distant, even otherworldly, but there's a resonance in it.
A low, rolling echo that still vibrates through the atmosphere of our time.
Back then, it was volcanic eruptions that spewed carbon dioxide into the skies. Thickening the atmosphere and heating the planet.
Today, it is the burning of coal, oil, and gas that sends the same molecule upward in vast, almost unimaginable quantities.
Though the Earth is ancient, the forces at play now are eerily familiar.
The same chemistry that once tipped the climate into upheaval is now once again quietly shifting the balance between life's flourishing and its unraveling.
Picture the climate as a final tuned balance, like a scale.
In the past, it was sudden and violent volcanic activity that slammed extra weight down on one side.
In our era, it is humanity that adds to the imbalance gradually, almost imperceptibly.
With every engine fired, every forest cleared, every plume of exhaust drifting skyward. That same invisible gas, which once drowned ancient forests and sent oceans surging.
And we're beginning to notice its effects in ways that are hard to dismiss.
The rains of the Carnean event didn't stop for millions of years.
And while today's storms are still measured in days and weeks, they're growing in strength and frequency.
Hurricanes now roar with unprecedented intensity.
Rain falls in torrents that overwhelm cities.
Heat waves roll across continents, breaking records once thought unbreakable.
The chain reaction has begun, and with it, a growing sense that the atmosphere we rely on is becoming more volatile with each passing year.
It's not difficult to imagine a future where the balance is tipped too far.
Where the climate settles into a new, harsher rhythm that modern civilization is ill-equipped to survive. One of the most profound lessons from the ancient storm is just how abruptly nature can shift.
Then, in a blink of geological time, the skies grew dark. Water surged across the continents, and great swaths of life vanished.
Transformation followed, but not before extinction had cleared the way.
And today the signs are beginning to rhyme. Coral reefs bleach in a single season.
Glaciers retreat at astonishing speeds. Species disappear from habitats that are changing faster than they can adapt.
The pace is dizzying, and the parallel is hard to ignore.
So now scientists ask a sobering question. Could something like the Carnean event occur again?
Only this time with humanity, not just observing, but actively accelerating the change.
Ocean currents are shifting. Warmer seas now carry more moisture, feeding storms that swell and multiply.
Though we may not be facing 2 million years of unbroken rainfall, we are already seeing record-breaking rains.
Rivers pushing beyond their banks, and deserts turned to lakes.
The atmosphere is becoming unstable once again, and we are living within it.
The Carnean eventually passed. A new climate balance emerged, and the dinosaurs thrived because their competitors couldn't withstand the upheaval.
The challenge for us is different. We've built a global civilization upon the assumption of stability.
Cities depend on predictable rainfall. Crops rely on seasons that arrive on time. When the weather breaks that rhythm, we don't just lose harvest.
We place entire societies under strain.
And that new world forged in the wake of disaster was unlike anything that had come before.
New plants unfurled, new creatures emerged, and life found new directions.
In that turbulent aftermath, adaptability did more than just preserve existence.
It guided evolution itself, setting in motion the rise of Earth's most iconic rulers, the dinosaurs.
And even amidst the upheaval, Earth continued to create moments of staggering beauty.
Imagine vast green landscapes stretching endlessly, where young forests began to emerge.
Rising from the very ground that had once been empty, waterlogged, plain.
The rains that sculpted valleys and carved new riverbeds didn't just drown, they nourished.
To wander through such a place would be to enter a realm where awe and unease walked hand in hand.
Where every gust of wind brought the scent of soaked soil, and every shadow whispered of unseen movement.
Overhead, the skies were a theater of elemental fury. Colossal storm systems yearned with incomprehensible energy, stretching thick, dark cloud banks across entire horizons, like great tides rolling through the heavens. Lightning would tear through the darkness with brilliant white forks, illuminating valleys for fleeting instants.
And thunder, instead of a single crash, would arrive in deep, resonant waves that rolled across the ground like tremors.
These storms weren't just spectacular. They were agents of transformation.
They didn't simply batter the earth. They redrew it.
They carved out new lakes, shifted the direction of rivers, and remade mountainsides.
In a relentless, dripping choreography of erosion and rebirth.
Witnessing such scenes would have stirred fear, yes, but also fascination.
Because in that terrifying performance, there was something mesmerizing.
And life, in all its tenacity, did more than survive. It found a way to thrive.
In the stagnant, muddy pools left behind by the retreating waters. Amphibians would gather,
with their voices echoing out into the wet stillness.
Insects filled the thick air with movement, wings catching flashes of sun.
That slips briefly between clouds.
Small reptiles climbed slick branches, hunting among dripping leaves.
While rivers, now vast and silver, teemed with fish navigating new channels, carved through the land. The variety of life, its endless shapes and strategies, was not just remarkable.
It spoke to something deeper. A resilience that didn't just resist chaos,
but drew opportunity from it. What might seem like ruin to us became for nature an invitation.
Plants that once barely held on now flourished in the soaked, nutrient-rich earth.
Wetlands stretched to every horizon, rippling under passing clouds, alive with subtle motion. Each storm, though violent, would tear open spaces in the canopy,
allowing light to reach the forest floor and new life to take hold. Even when rivers overwhelmed whole valleys, they left behind deposits rich in minerals, ready for the next surge of green.
To stand in such a world would be to feel dwarfed, but not diminished, connected to something vast and alive.
The roar of thunder, the glint of leaves beneath heavy rainfall, the strange cries of creatures.
Half seen through the mist, it would all stir something primal.
Because in that landscape lay the truth of our planet, a place of contrast, where destruction gives way to beauty, where endings lead directly to beginnings.
This was Earth exposed, its rawness unhidden, stripping away predictability,
yet constantly offering creation another chance.
As the deluge carried on, the face of the world changed again and again.
Dry scrublands became wet, lush marshes. Barren slopes turned vibrant. The storms pulsed like a rhythm, pounding new life into every surface they touched. Into the mud, the roots, even the air itself. And through it all, life didn't just cling on. It expanded. It poured into every available space, finding new ways to be.
And sometimes in the stillness after the storm had passed, those rare golden moments.
When the clouds parted and light filtered through the drenched canopy,
you could truly see what this planet is capable of. Not just fierce destruction,
but astonishing regeneration. The beauty that emerged wasn't separate from the chaos.
It was shaped by it, born from it, held in every raindrop, every flash of light,
every fragile, sprouting leaf.
But there is something deeply moving, perhaps even unsettling, about knowing that most of the
carnuvial event didn't just flood landscapes and rearrange river systems.
It brought entire worlds to a close. Imagine returning to such a place after the rains had at last begun to ease. The air heavy with silence. Forests once alive, now empty. Species that had spent millions of years adapting, refining their place within these systems, suddenly without refuge.
They faded, they decomposed, and all that remains of many are fragments, bone, shell, the occasional imprint, locked away in the rock for millions of years, waiting.
When we unearth fossils today, we're not simply holding bits of ancient life.
We're holding echoes of ecosystems that once pulsed with sound, light, and movement.
And were ultimately swallowed by the storm. Each fossil is a quiet echo from a world long lost.
A delicate message etched in stone from creatures that once flourished beneath skies and in... Among them are impressions of peculiar plants, their leaves patterned with unfamiliar veins, hinting at rain-soaked jungles thick with moisture. Others reveal the outlines of reptiles, species that couldn't withstand the sudden shift, to a wetter, more unforgiving Earth. Even the smallest of life-men insects left behind their fragile wings like pressed petals in the rock, as if a time-worn book had closed its pages around them. And while we often marvel at how this prolonged storm paved the way for the dinosaurs' eventual rise, we're also reminded that it swept away thousands of tiny dramas, untold and unremembered. Paleontologists describe the fossil record as deeply incomplete, like a broken song, where great passages are simply missing chapters, washed away and dissolved by time. During the Carnean pluvial event, rising seas combined with almost ceaseless rain
to smother entire habitats in layers of mud and silt.
Some organisms were sealed in that moment, preserved for us to rediscover. But many were taken entirely, vanished without a trace. For every fossil that emerges into our hands, it's believed that countless species left nothing at all.
What we have is a scattered melody, and trying to recreate that ancient world
is like attempting to rebuild a symphony from only a handful of fading notes.
What's extraordinary is that these fossils speak as much to our imagination as to our science.
Can you picture the sounds echoing through those flooded forests?
Where amphibians the size of modern crocodiles roared through swampy waters?
What hues shimmered on the skins of reptiles never glimpsed by human eyes? Were there insects that glowed softly beneath the dim, storm-thickened canopies?
And often the most powerful truths come not from what we know, but from all the things we never will. The fossil record reveals undeniable presences, species that certainly existed.
Many scientists believe that even now, remnants of entirely new species lie buried.
In remote mountain crags, or beneath sheets of ancient desert stone, waiting.
Each fossil uncovered is like discovering a torn page from an incomplete journal.
One that reminds us of all we've lost, and of how many more pages will remain blank forever. The The world during the Carnian rains wasn't only shaped by extinction, it was a moment of profound transformation.
Those unable to survive the deluge faded into history. But those that adapted carved new evolutionary futures.
The disappearance of some species allowed others to rise.
And yet, there's something deeply sobering in imagining just how much biological richness was wiped away.
Its only legacy: the hushed bones displayed behind museum glass.
When you wander among those ancient skeletons, you're not just seeing scientific exhibits. You're standing before the remnants of lives that once moved through forests, now fossilized.
Through rivers that have long since turned to stone. These relics are fragments from a world that storms tried to erase.
But they couldn't silence all of it. And perhaps most haunting of all is this. For every specimen labeled and preserved, there are entire worlds we'll never even imagine.
Creatures that once roamed, breathed, and vanished.
So thoroughly consumed by the churn of time that no whisper of their existence remains.
They are the truly lost, their stories buried beneath the relentless forward march of Earth's history.
While the ghost of ancient rain still lingers quietly in the stones beneath our feet.
Try to imagine living in a world where even the ground seemed unsure.
Where trees stood in waterlogged silence, and the skies poured endlessly, without offering relief.
In such a world, the old rhythms of life fractured. Familiar patterns dissolved in rain.
Great amphibians, once rulers of the wetlands, began to falter.
As their habitats transformed into vast, unpredictable flood zones. In this churning chaos, survival didn't favor the strong, but the swift.
The ones who could change quickly and seize new possibilities. Among them were the early dinosaurs. They weren't yet the towering beasts we imagine today, but smaller, agile creatures with bird-like features.
Clinging to existence in narrow pockets of shelter.
As the ancient ecosystems crumbled, a door opened. And through it stepped the quiet inheritors of a transformed world.
In those early days, when dinosaurs were still minor players in Earth's grand narrative, they carried with them a remarkable set of traits: light bodies, powerful limbs, and lungs that breathed with efficiency. It's tempting, of course, to think that their rise was inevitable. But evolution doesn't follow straight paths. It meanders like flood swing on unseen currents.
Had the rainfall not endured for so long, the world might still have belonged to the amphibians. Had the winds of climate blown differently, the torch might have passed to those mammal-like reptiles instead.
That the dinosaurs stepped into power wasn't a certainty. It was the result of a razor-thin collision of timing, anatomy, and sheer luck.
The Carpluvial event was not just a violent season. It was a planetary reset.
Ecosystems were swept clean like forests after a hurricane. Entire family trees toppled. In those bright patches, young shoots scramble upward, racing toward the sun before competitors arrive.
When extinction clears the field, the survivors step forward. Dinosaurs were swift to claim those new frontiers.
And once they'd found their foothold, they spread from small regions to entire continents.
Some were no larger than turkeys, nimble, darting creatures, weaving through wet woodlands and rocky hills.
That arc from small forest runners to titanic rulers was carved entirely by chance.
The dinosaurs' respiratory systems, remarkably similar to those of modern birds, allowed them to draw breath even in...
They didn't stumble into dominance. They were ready to act when the moment arrived.
Looking back from our vantage point now, what's most astonishing is how delicate it all was. The tipping point of history was so fine.
But the skies cleared. The rains after 2 million years finally stopped.
Into that stillness stepped new rulers. They took their chance. And in doing so, they would steer the course of evolution for the next 160 million years.
Now imagine if you were waking one morning to endless rain.
The soil becomes saturated. Rivers grow bold, creeping across fields, over roads, into homes.
Such a storm would be more than an inconvenience. It would bring unraveling.
Hospitals could hold the line for a while, but medicine needs clean spaces, power, and functioning systems.
When those vanish, even our most advanced treatments crumble.
And in the silence left behind, we'd hear a truth we often ignore.
That our dominance over the natural world exists only at nature's pleasure.
The emotional toll would be just as deep. Imagine growing up never having seen the sun.
A whole generation who only knows a sky painted in shades of gray and a ground that never dries.
Hope, that fragile thread that guides the human spirit, often rises with the light of day.
Without that light, despair could bloom as easily as mold in damp corners.
Entire cultures might unravel, not because of food or shelter, but because the idea of a future dims.
Survival then would hinge on a single trait's adaptability.
Just as ancient life forms endured the storms of the distant past, so too would humanity need to evolve.
Floating villages might appear.
New crops bred for wetness could emerge.
We might learn to capture power from the chaotic atmosphere itself.
We've done it before. We've endured. But this would be the greatest test of our age. Not just a challenge of innovation, but of speed.
Could we change fast enough to meet a planet that no longer waits?
And that question, like distant thunder, echoes forward.
If the sky opened tomorrow and never closed again, could we be clever enough, adaptive enough,
United enough to face a storm that honors no borders, no wealth, no privilege?
Because Earth has faced this trial once already.
And even though the great rains of the Carnean Pluvial event ceased more than 200 million years ago,
Their legacy hasn't faded. It's with us still, in the most intimate way imaginable, in the DNA of life.
It wasn't just the destruction that mattered. It was the transformation.
The endless downpour didn't merely wash away landscapes and species.
It sculpted something far more enduring. Resilience, etched into the very building blocks of life. DNA, after all, is more than code. It's memory, a record of struggle and triumph. When the rains came without end, only those with the right adaptations endured. Some plants evolve seeds tough enough to germinate in drenched soils.
Some animals acquired traits that allowed them to survive chaos and scarcity.
And those who didn't, their stories ended with the flood. But those who made it pass their resilience on.
And that quiet strength now lives within us.
You can see its fingerprints if you know where to look. In reptiles that trace their lineage to survivors of that sodden world, in traits that echo choices made by life under pressure.
And so the storm lives on, not in the sky, but in the quiet chemical whispers carried in every cell.
Their resilience in enduring both deluge and drought. Their remarkable capacity to shift metabolic gears when nourishment dwindles. And their ability to withstand climates that veer from scorching to freezing. All of it reflects a deep legacy, born beneath ancient skies that barely ever cleared. And mammals, too, bear the imprint of that distant tempest.
Long before their time as Earth's dominant species, their early forms, tiny and fragile, scampered through dripping woodlands,
cloaked in constant rainfall. Their very survival relied on nimbleness, on finding refuge,
on disappearing into thicket, while predators prowled through landscapes that refused to stay still. Over countless generations, these behaviors fused into their biology, sculpting instincts and inner clocks that still echo in us.
Even the cycles of our sleep, aligned to day and night, yet remarkably adaptable in moments of disruption,
may trace their origin to ancestors who lived through endless gray, where sun and shadow were luxuries seldom seen.
This is the power of DNA. It doesn't simply archive what endures.
It whispers of what might have been.
When scientists examine the genomes of living species, they sometimes stumble upon ghostly traces of genes.
Faint echoes from life forms that vanish long ago.
These fragments suggest there were once beings that roamed verdant jungles or glided through bloated rivers, but were erased by the relentless storm.
Though their forms crumbled into the soil.
It's as if the storm etched its memory into every creature that made it through.
A watermark carried silently from one generation to the next.
And perhaps most moving of all, we too are part of that legacy.
We like to believe we've stepped clear of the primeval past, but in truth, their endurance
built the platform upon which we stand.
When every act of survival shaped a future that would one day include us.
With each pulse of the heart, with every quiet breath, we echo choices made.
The thought that a storm might steer evolution feels poetic, but it's grounded in biology.
Natural selection is not a poet, but a sculptor. It hammers away at weakness, rewarding strength and adaptability.
And for 2 million years of reign, this sculpture worked unceasingly, refining life into shapes more suited for endurance. What remains today are not grand statues, but living proof creatures, whose very bodies are records of survival. It is astonishing to realize that a single raindrop falling countless ages ago might have shifted the course of an entire lineage.
Some forms were swept away. Others were reshaped into something new.
Not buried in the ground, but alive inside us, humming with the memory of storms long past.
And as we trace those patterns, as we follow those quiet threads of history, we arrive at what that ancient storm made possible. It cleared a path, reworked the stage, and ushered in an era unlike anything before.
Picture a world where no blue sky appears. Not for a morning, not for a generation, but for millennia.
And yet within that endless downpour, life persisted. New forms emerged.
They didn't just survive. They adapted. They pressed forward.
Storms tear down, but they also build anew. Each flood, each rupture in the normal rhythm.
But without that loss, the age of the dinosaurs and eventually our own unfolding story might never have taken shape. Life is astonishingly delicate, and yet it refuses to yield. It seizes even the bleakest chapters and turns them into beginnings.
Could the homes and towers of our cities endure when rivers swell beyond their bounds and fields become seas of mud?
What would happen to the human spirit when day after day, year upon year, the light of the sun disappears behind a curtain of endless rain?
Our position on this planet, for all our brilliance and innovation, is still so incredibly fragile.
Catastrophe and creation are not enemies, but allies. Together, they write the story of life.
So I want to ask you, if a storm like that began again this very day, would we be ready?
How do you see our species faring beneath a sky that never clears?